You know, I've been staring at this image in the show notes for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to admit, I'm struggling with it. The caption says it's an elephant, but frankly, it just looks like a gray blob trying to fold itself into a corner.
It's not your typical National Geographic shot, is it?
Not even close. It looks like this massive creature trying to play hide and seek in a room that is way, way too small for it. It's absurd.
It feels absurd to look at, sure.
Mm.
But what if I told you that that image is actually one of the most accurate depictions of physical disability I've ever seen?
Okay, you've completely lost me. Usually when we talk about disability, the images are, well, they aren't hiding elephants.
Yeah.
We see wheelchairs or we see people, overcoming obstacles. We don't see blobs.
That confusion you're feeling.
Yeah.
That is exactly the entry point for our deep dive today.
Right.
We're exploring the mind and art of Yu-Hsuan, who also creates under the name Zumu. He's an artist, a scholar, and an advocate who is completely rewriting the script on how we perceive the disabled body.
And when you say rewriting, you mean that literally. We're going to talk about literature, art, and even gym class.
We are.
But let's stick with Yu-Hsuan for a second. Who is he?
So he's a graduate of the National Taipei University of Education, but he's not just some academic living in an ivory tower. He has these really deep roots in adaptive physical education.
Adaptive PE, so gym class for kids with disabilities.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
But his work goes so much deeper than just, let's modify the rules of dodgeball.
Yeah.
He's moving the conversation from how do we fit these bodies into our world to how does the world feel to these bodies?
That's a big shift. And looking at the stack of research you sent over, it seems like we're going to cover a ton of ground. We've got policy, we've got the surrealist art, and some surprisingly angry literature.
It's a journey from the physical to the philosophical. We'll start with his roots in the education system, then move into that elephant in the room art series, literally. Then we'll look at how he's redesigning social welfare to be less awkward, and finally, why he thinks disabled characters need to stop being so inspiring and maybe start getting a little mad.
I love that. Stop being inspiring. It goes against everything we see on social media. But let's go back to the beginning. The gym. I think for a lot of people, PE class was, let's say, a mixed bag.
Oh, absolutely. The anxiety of being picked last, the physical awkwardness.
For me, it was the dodgeball. I was just a moving target. But for the students Yu-Hsuan works with, the stakes are different, aren't they?
Much different. For many students with disabilities, the memory of PE isn't about being bad at sports. It's about not existing in the sport at all.
Right. It's sitting on the bleachers.
Or scorekeeping. It's exclusion.
So Yu-Hsuan, he started his career trying to fix that in the Adaptive Physical Education Development Center. But this wasn't just him shouting from a podium.
No, and that's what I love about his approach. He didn't just write policy papers. He managed this massive nationwide storytelling campaign. He wanted to change the narrative by letting the students tell the story.
How?
They collected micromovies, photos, essays, all focused on inclusive PE.
I saw a note here about a little director. Tell me about that.
This is such a great example of the impact. They had a primary school student, a little director, who actually directed one of these films.
Wow.
And they didn't just screen it in a school hall. They took these films on a nationwide tour. They went to cafes, galleries. They went north, south, east. They even went out to the outlying islands like Penghu.
That's wild. So you have people in Penghu who maybe haven't had a lot of exposure to adaptive sports, suddenly watching a film directed by a kid in a wheelchair.
Exactly. And think about the shift in power there. Usually a child with a disability is the object of the gaze. We look at them often with pity.
Right.
But here, the child is the director. We are looking at what they want us to see. It turns them into the protagonist of their own life.
That's the blinkest moment right there, shifting from object to subject. And this wasn't happening in a vacuum, right? There was legal stuff going on in the background?
Yes, this all coincided with amendments to the Special Education Act. It was a crucial time where adaptive PE moved from being a nice-to-have to a must-have.
So the law was catching up.
The law basically said, this space belongs to these students too. It's a right, not a privilege.
So he helped secure their right to be in the physical space of the gym, but then it seems like he realized that physical access, it isn't enough. You can be in the room and still feel like an alien.
And that's the perfect segue into his art career. He adopts the name Zhu.
Zumu. It sounds poetic. What does it mean?
It is. Zhu references the Duke of Zhu. He's associated with dreams and the subconscious. And Mu means to bathe. So it's this idea of like bathing in a dreamscape.
Which would explain why his art looks the way it does. It's not realistic at all. It's fluid.
Exactly.
Which brings us back to my gray blob, the elephant.
The mystery elephant, or Mi Kang Shang.
Okay, help me out here. I'm looking at it again. Why an elephant? Yu-Hsuan uses an electric wheelchair. When I see someone in a wheelchair, especially if they're navigating a crowded cafe, I don't think elephant. I usually think, well, I worry they're going to get hurt. I see vulnerability.
And that is the external gaze. That's you looking at him.
Yeah.
But Yu-Hsuan is painting what it feels like to be him.
Go on.
He says that when he's in his electric wheelchair, navigating a tight space like a crowded elevator or a busy hallway, he doesn't feel small. He feels massive.
Massive.
He feels like a tank.
A tank.
Think about it. He's encased in metal and machinery. He's worried about crushing people's toes. He's worried about banging into the walls. He feels heavy, cumbersome, and obtrusive.
Wow. I've never thought about it that way. I'm standing there thinking, oh, let me make room for this fragile person. And he's sitting there thinking, I am a bulldozer in a china shop.
Precisely. The elephant represents that anxiety of taking up space. It's the feeling of being too much for the world around you. He's trying to hide, like the elephant in the picture, but he's simply too big to disappear.
That is such a powerful inversion. It completely flips the vulnerable stereotype on its head. But the elephant isn't the only animal in this landing circus. There's a panda, too. And this one is a little creepy.
The parasitic panda. Yeah, it's definitely darker.
It's a panda, but it's full of holes. And inside the holes are these little ghost things.
Those are the parasites.
Yeah. See, if I'm that panda, I'm calling a doctor. I'm getting those things removed.
Yeah.
But the panda in the art isn't trying to remove them.
What's it doing?
It's covering one eye and playing hide and seek with them.
You're reacting the way most people react to illness or disability. Fix it, cure it, get it out. But Yu-Hsuan uses this to talk about chronic conditions.
Okay.
In the conversation, they discuss things like eye floaters, those little specks in your vision.
Oh, those are the worst. It's like a fly you can't swat.
And what happens if you spend all day trying to look at them, trying to focus on them?
You go crazy. You can't see anything else.
Right. You can't surgically remove every floater, just like you can't always cure a disability or chronic pain. If you view your body as a battlefield where you have to kill every intruder, you'll never be at peace. The panda represents coexistence.
Coexistence.
It's acknowledging the ghosts are there. They are living in the holes. But instead of waging war, you play with them, you negotiate with them. It's a much more sustainable way to exist in a body that isn't perfect.
That's actually really comforting. It's not giving up. It's choosing peace over a war you can't win.
It is. And this theme of how we look at things culminates in the third animal, the Mona Crocodile.
I love the name. I assume this is a riff on the Mona Lisa.
It is. Think about the Mona Lisa. When you go to the Louvre or see a picture of her, how do you look at her?
I mean, you stare. You try to figure out the smile. Is she happy? Is she smuggling secrets? It's a mystery.
Exactly. You stare, but you don't judge. You don't look at her and say, her nose is weird, or why is she sitting like that? You are filled with curiosity. You appreciate the enigma.
I see where this is going.
Yu-Hsuan wants us to look at the disabled body with the Mona Lisa gaze.
Instead of the medical gaze.
Yes. Instead of looking at a twisted limb or a wheelchair and thinking, what's wrong with him? Or, that looks painful. He wants us to look with that same artistic curiosity, to see the difference as a mystery to be appreciated, not a problem to be solved.
That's a beautiful concept, but it's hard to do in practice, right? Especially in social situations, which actually brings us to the next part of his work, because Yu-Hsuan didn't just stay in the art gallery.
No, he went into commercial design.
For the Cian-Lu Social Welfare Foundation.
That's right. They help people with intellectual disabilities earn a living, often by selling baked goods or handmade items.
Okay, I have to confess something here. I have been in this situation. You see a group from a foundation selling cookies or soap outside a subway station, and you feel awkward.
It's the charity friction.
Yeah. You feel like you have to buy something to prove you're a good person. I once bought 3 scented candles that smelled like old socks just because I couldn't make eye contact and say no.
And that's exactly the dynamic Yu-Hsuan wanted to break. That's not a transaction, that's a pity tax. And the sellers feel it too. It's not dignified for anyone.
So how does a graphic designer fix social awkwardness?
By creating an intermediary. He designed a series of postcards to go with the products. One of them is called the vendor.
I have the image here. It's a cheerful character, looks a bit like a cartoon dog in a wheelchair. But the wheelchair isn't medical, it's a cart sprouting this magical tree of colorful balls.
And what does the text say?
Get to know each other with a smile. It's cute, but how does it solve the problem?
It changes the focal point. When you walk up, you aren't staring at the person's disability and trying to look away. You're looking at this beautiful, whimsical piece of art.
It's an icebreaker.
It's an icebreaker. It says, I am offering you something of value. This art, this product. We are connecting over this, not over your pity for me.
So it turns it back into a real exchange. I like your art, I'll buy your cookie. Not, here's $5, please don't feel bad.
Exactly. And he tackled an even heavier topic with another design, the double aging crisis.
I've heard this term, but can we unpack it? It sounds terrifying.
It is a very real cliff edge for many families. Imagine a person with a significant disability. They are, say, 40 years old. They live with their parents, who have been their primary caregivers their whole lives.
Okay.
But now those parents are 75 or 80. Their backs are giving out. They can't lift their adult child anymore. They're getting sick. The parents are aging, and the child is aging. Who takes care of who?
That is, yeah, that's a cliff.
It's a crisis of housing and care. So Yu-Hsuan designed a visual for these things called co-living homes. It shows a green hill nourished by rain with small houses. And the text is simply, everyone craves a home.
I like that he didn't make it about medical facilities.
No. He made it universal. He didn't say, help these helpless people. He said, we all want a place where we belong. By finding that common emotional ground, he builds empathy without demanding pity.
It's subtle, but it's really smart. Now, speaking of things that aren't subtle, let's talk about the anger.
Yes, the pivot to angry disability literature.
This surprised me, because usually when we see disability in books or movies, it's inspiration porn.
Right.
It's the guy who climbs Everest with no legs, or the saintly girl who teaches the grumpy, able-bodied man how to love.
The Mozart symphony approach.
Yeah.
Beautiful, harmonious, uplifting. Yu-Hsuan is. Well, he's tired of that.
He wants to play death metal.
Ideally, yes. He draws a lot of inspiration from a Japanese novel called Hunchback.
Hunchback, okay.
It's written by a disabled author about a disabled protagonist. And his character is not nice. She's cynical. She's furious at society. She has dark sexual desires. She hates people.
She sounds like a real person.
That's the point. Yu-Hsuan argues that disabled characters are often stripped of their humanity because they aren't allowed to be flawed.
You have to be angels.
To justify their existence. He wants the right to be rock and roll, to be messy, to scream.
It's a form of equality, isn't it? The right to be a jerk.
It is. If able-bodied people can be anti-heroes, why can't disabled people? He's actually planning his PhD dissertation on this, tracking the history of disability literature in Taiwan.
Really?
Yeah, he wants to see how characters evolved from being props in a tragedy to being the main characters of their own messy stories.
There was one other literary metaphor he mentioned that I really connected with. It wasn't about anger, but about acceptance. The river.
Yes, the picture book, I Talk Like a River. It's about a boy who stutters.
And Yu-Hsuan said he was jealous of this book.
He was jealous because the metaphor was so perfect, he wished he'd thought of it. The book reframes stuttering. Instead of seeing the stutter as a broken way of speaking, it compares the speech to a river.
Because a river isn't a straight pipe.
Right. A river swirls. It hits rocks. It pauses in pools. It rushes in rapids. It's turbulent. So if you speak like a river, your pauses and struggles aren't errors. They are just the topography of your voice.
That is such a gorgeous way to reframe a struggle. I don't have a speech impediment. I have a river mouth.
It fits perfectly with his Landing Circus philosophy. It's not about fixing the river to make it a canal. It's about appreciating the wildness of the water.
I love that. Okay, so we have one last stop on this roadmap. We've covered art, design, literature. But there's also a practical community aspect, the Accessible Poetry Society.
This one hits on a very specific kind of loneliness.
The university experience.
Right. Think back to college. Where did you make your best friends? Was it in the lecture hall, listening to the professor?
No way. It was the clubs. The late-night pizza, the debating society, the drama club.
Exactly. That's the heartbeat of campus life. But for Yu-Hsuan and many students with disabilities, that world is often closed off. Maybe the club meets in a basement with no elevator. Maybe it meets at 9 p.m. And physically, you just don't have the stamina to be out that late after a full day of classes.
So you get the degree, but you miss the life.
You miss the community. So Yu-Hsuan wants to build the flood he never had. He's proposing an accessible poetry society. But the key feature is that it's asynchronous.
Meaning you don't all have to be in the same room.
You don't have to be in the room, and you don't have to be on the clock. You can participate online. You can submit your work when your energy allows, whether that's 2 p.m. or 4 a.m.
It seems so obvious when you say it, doesn't it? Just removing the requirement of being there opens the door to so many people.
It does. And while it's centered on the disabled experience, he wants it open to everyone. It's about creating a space where the physical limitations of the body don't limit the community of the mind.
It's really coming full circle, whether it's the gym class in Penghu or the postcard in the market or this poetry society. It's all about creating a space where you can show up as you are.
As you are. Not as a problem to be solved or a tragedy to be pitied.
We've covered a lot today. We've gone from the tank-like feeling of the wheelchair, which I am never going to forget, to the parasitic panda making peace with pain.
And the angry literature that demands the right to be complex.
It really challenges you to check your own reactions, doesn't it?
It does.
So here is the thought I want to leave everyone with. It goes back to that Mona Crocodile. The next time you encounter someone who doesn't fit the standard mold, whether it's how they move, how they speak, or how they navigate the world, catch yourself.
Check the gaze.
Exactly. Are you looking at them like a mechanic trying to fix a broken car? Or can you look at them like a piece of art? Can you be curious about the mystery without judging the form?
If you can make that shift, the whole world gets a lot more interesting.
It really does. Thanks for helping me unpack all this.
A pleasure, as always.
Keep diving deep.